please, and confirmation.
Thank you. The webcast has started, Chairman.
Thank you. So thanks for attending this virtual meeting this morning, members of the Hampshire Pension Fund Panel and Board. The meeting is being webcast on YouTube via the County Council website. All decisions at today's meeting will be reached through a vote. I will call for the vote at the appropriate time under each item, with the vote and outcome read audibly by the Democratic Support Officer. I've had a word with the Democratic Support Officer. We will probably look to ask for any abstentions or votes against, rather than going through everyone for votes for. I will. That's on votes for approval. I'll begin by reading the names of members on the committee so they can confirm their attendance public record. Members, please unmute and confirm your attendance when your name is called so that we can be heard. Councillor Thacker present, that's me. Councillor Alan Dowden.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Jonathan Glenn.
Present and correct, Chairman.
Councillor Andrew Joy.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Peter Latham.
Chairman.
I'll take that as a present, Peter. Councillor Derek Meller.
Yeah, present, Tom.
Councillor Bruce Tennant.
Present.
Councillor Michael White.
Present.
Councillor Stephen Barnes Andrews.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Cal Corkery. Councillor Corkery. Councillor Paul Taylor. Councillor Taylor. Dr. Clifford Allen.
Present, Chair.
Liz Bartle.
Present, Chair.
Lindsay Gowland.
Present.
Sarah Manchester.
Present.
Neil Wood.
Present, Chairman.
And Caroline Dobson, our special advisor. Thank you, Caroline. So we'll move on to item 1, apologies for absence. We have apologies from our chairman, Councillor Mark Kemp G, who may be attending as an observer only. We have apologies from Councillor Carter and from Councillor Andrew Gibson. Do any members want to register any other apologies that have been passed on? Right. So declarations of interest. Members, if you have any declarations of any item to be discussed today, please declare it now or at the time the item is discussed. So can we now move on to the minutes of the non-exempt pages, agenda item 3. If you're ready, members, go through page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Members, are you happy that that is all correct and for me to virtually sign these minutes?
Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Members. Thank you. Item 4, deputations. There are no deputations. So we'll move on to item 5, Chairman's announcements. don't have much to give on chairman's announcements. Officers have told me we are still looking for volunteers from the panel and board to hear presentations from investment managers bidding for the new UK property mandate, CBRE's current contract that expires at the end of the year. The presentations are scheduled for an all-day session on the 30th of November. And we'd like a group of 4 or 5 committee members, as we've had in previous. If you are interested, could you please let Andrew Beauflower know directly, please, members? And it should be a very interesting meeting given the current situation. So you may actually, I'm hoping to see you oversubscribed as volunteers, but we shall see.
Chairman, can I cut in? What date was that?
30th, 30.
That we can cut in. I'm clear. Andrew, can you take my name now?
Thank you very much, Councillor Glenn, showing us the way forward as usual. Brilliant. So if any others, let Andrew know, and we'll move on to my next announcement. We are reporting the July Access Joint Committee meetings, as these have to run to a meeting behind until the next set of minutes are approved at the following meeting, if you get my drift. So September's minutes will be approved in November, and we can then be reported to the panel and board. These minutes don't cover that the Access Inter-Authority Agreement has had some minor updates regarding clarification of the role of the operator link, which will need to be approved by each authority. The Director of Corporate Resources and the Deputy Chief Executive is able to approve these changes under the original delegation from County Council to finalise agreements. That pretty much covers my announcements, other than, as I've said, I'm standing in for Councillor Kemp G, who will or may pop in later. So thank you very much. I think we are ready now to just have a look at the Access Joint Committee minutes. Does anybody want to say anything? I don't feel I need to go through them, just for the members to note it and to raise anything should they wish to. Is everybody happy?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So the recommendation is that the Pension Fund Panel and Board note the access minutes.
Noted, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want a hand? Do you want a hand up, or just say yes?
Just, I think a yes in this circumstance, Councillor Glenn.
Okay.
Or a hand up if you have anything to object to it. I'll wait a few moments and then we'll move on. Or you want to say anything about it. So I think we can say that that is duly noted. So I am skipping screens at the moment. So we're now on to agenda item 7. And Andrew, who am I handing over to for this?
Gemma, Councillor Thacker.
Thank you. Gemma.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. The purpose of thank you. So the purpose of this report is to set out proposals for the training arrangements for members of the Pension Fund Panel and Board for this year and next. The Public Service Pension Act requires board members to have the knowledge and understanding that is appropriate to exercise the functions of a member of the pension board. Over the summer, panel and board members were asked to complete training needs analysis forms to allow them to assess which areas of knowledge they require training or a refresher upon. The training needs analysis forms are designed around sit for guidance on knowledge required for elected representatives and non-executives in the public sector, as well as local pension boards. Table 1 on page 17 of this report lists the training areas which the largest numbers of panel and board members requested training upon. Panel and board members were also invited to propose additional ideas for training, and these are listed in paragraph 13. Since this report was published, the Chairman, Councillor Kemp G, has suggested that a refresher is also provided on index-linked gilts. Paragraphs 14 through to 25 of this report provide further detail on the training areas listed in Table 1, with suggestions on how panel and board members can gain knowledge on these topics. In the past, members have agreed that the equivalent of 2 in-house training half-days should be arranged for panel and board members each year. Table 2 on page 20 of this report provides proposals for training sessions for this year and next. These proposals have been put together but based on the training needs analysis forms completed by panel and board members, as well as additional suggestions for training received. The programme of training sessions will be conducted in line with the County Council's policy on meetings during the coronavirus pandemic. Meetings are currently being held via MS Teams. Each year, a training policy and plan is prepared and agreed by the panel and board. The proposed policy and plan for this year is attached to Appendix 1. Changes from last year's policy and plan have been highlighted. No major changes have been made, and the proposed training sessions and budget have been updated. The proposed training budget is discussed in paragraphs 33 to 36, with the figures in Table 3 of page 22. The total budget is lower this year than in previous years due to the effect of the coronavirus pandemic, with the LGA Fundamentals Training course converted to a summarised, free of charge webinar for this year. The rest of this report provides an update to members on the online training library, as well as reminders on the procedures for accessing external training sessions using the training request form and evaluating all training sessions using the training evaluation form. For information, the annual employers meeting is scheduled to be held on the 9th of November 2020 at 10 o'clock, and panel and board members are encouraged to attend. It is planned that this meeting will not take place as an in-person event and instead will take place using the MS Teams platform. Employers of the fund and panel and board members will be advised as appropriate. In addition, I thought it was worth mentioning a date for the diaries, and that is the annual Treasury Management Update with Arlene Close, the County Council's Treasury Management Advisor. This will be held on the 2nd of December at 11 o'clock. This takes place each year as part of a Hampshire County Councillor briefing day, and all panel and board members are invited to attend this session as it provides additional training in relation to the pension fund's cash strategy. Further information will be provided closer to the time. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Gemma. Now, just before I come to you, Cliff, Katie, are there any? Members been putting their hands up through the meeting? Do you have a list of questions?
No, at the moment it's just Cliff, Chairman. Thank you.
All right. So please go ahead, Cliff.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, can I just really sort of praise and support the efforts for training? I think it's been really good with webinar and so on. My view is that the provision of finances for training can be removed and justified by the pandemic, but learning needs and requirements for training obviously remain. Program learning packages, computer-based learning is a substitute, but it's not as effective as face-to-face learning. And this is particularly so, for example, at the LGC Investment Summit, which is indicated item 35, scheduled for the 3rd and 5th of March 2021. My personal view, and I expressed this to the chair some while ago, is that the COVID restrictions are likely to go on until June 2021, despite the fact that some acceleration to that might be found because of the challenge process, which will take place in January. Even if that does go ahead, and that's unlikely in my view, it would still bring the COVID restrictions to April 2021. So I don't actually think that the 3rd and 5th of March LGC Investment Summit will take place. But for me, this is an exceptional learning opportunity, and I support the importance of this. And for the chair to attend every year, as he always does. But my view is that by restricting the budget on training, we perhaps might miss the opportunity to send additional people when that does occur. It is such a tremendous learning opportunity, and if we don't have the resources to actually send other people who may well have missed out on training as a result of the COVID restrictions, when they release, I think we should have the funds available to send more people to events such as that. So my suggestion is that we don't actually cut the budget, but that we actually maintain it as previous years and use it to send additional people to events such as the LGC Summit.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. I think sometimes the issue is the number of places we're offered at training, especially the really major events. But I'll ask.
Chairman,
Yes.
it's Carolyn here. Would you
Yes,
like
hello,
me to pick
Carolyn.
that up?
Yes, please.
Dr. Allen, I think you make a very fair point. The intention of the table in the report was not indeed to restrict the budget, just to present what we think the realistic budget would be for the year ahead. If colleagues are comfortable, we can place a contingency that brings the budget back up to the normal £6,000 per annum. We can place that in as a contingency budget, and then it can be utilised as appropriate. And actually, that would allow the reinstatement of face-to-face in the sincere hope that one day we'll be able to access that. I hope that gets around the challenge. Thank you.
That's perfectly acceptable to me, Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. I think members would all support that contingency fund. Thank you. Councillor Glenn.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Starting on that last point by Cliff, it's highly likely that it won't go ahead as a face-to-face, but they may well do a virtual meeting. As you're probably well aware that I've attended quite a number of virtual meetings over the last 6 months. And the virtual meetings, maybe not as good as face-to-face, but you do learn a heck of a lot. Now, with regards to the 3rd and the 5th, I would say there shouldn't, if it's virtual, there shouldn't be a limitation on the number of pension members who should be able to attend. Because frankly, you just sit at home in front of the computer and you can join in. I did an LGIU one yesterday and there were about 600 people present. You know, you don't see their faces, but there's a lot of people taking advantage of this. I've also made the point to quite a number of the organizers that when we do go back to normality, it's really important that we persevere with virtual abilities so that we can actually attend conferences in London without having to drag ourselves up there. What's more, it means spending less on the budget. So I do hope, a lot of people are making these points, so I think virtual meetings are here to stay. We don't have to be there unless you really want to be. My next point was, is 2 half days a year enough for training? I really do question that, actually. That's something we can debate at another time, but it's not very much. And can I just say, on the Arling Close date, at 11 o'clock. At 10 o'clock that day, there's a members briefing. So I'm just wondering if we can either make it later with Arling Close or we change the date. That's it for the moment, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Glenn. Jonathan, those are all very, very good points. Andrew, could I ask that you have a look at that Arling Close date and the members briefing clash?
Chairman, if I can perhaps assist with that, there isn't a clash. As Gemma explained, this is part of the members training event, and what we do each year is we allocate a double session within that event to Arling Close for Treasury Management. So yes, Councillor Glenn is correct. Members training will start at 10 o'clock. Our slot there is at 11 o'clock for Arling Close. Right. And we invite then additional attendees to come and join that session. Hope that's clear.
But may I come back on that, Chairman? Does that mean that we're asking all members to attend the Arling Close?
It's a good question.
Chairman, we have presented this in this manner for many years now, and yes, it is opened up to all county council members, because clearly this is our advisor for treasury management for the county council, therefore it is relevant training for all county councillors. It is also opened up to an array of other participants, including the pension fund panel and board, because Arlen Close give advice on the cash allocation for the pension fund. We also invite other organisations for whom Hampshire County Council provide treasury management services. And as I say, that's been very successful. It's never been oversubscribed. And we've always had extremely positive feedback from all attendees on the Arlen Close presentation. So it will just run as it always has in previous years, Chairman. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much for that clarification. So that's the 2nd of December event that we're talking about. So I just wanted to be clear on that.
Chairman, could I chip in on that? I'll lower my hand. I'm very grateful actually to Carolyn Williamson for actually giving the detail on that. Absolutely right, because I sort of oversee the member development group and member development in general. This is exactly what we've done in the past, and it's actually worked remarkably well, because it ensures that there's a much broader understanding, particularly of treasury management, which is so important to the council.
Thank you for your support, Councillor Joy.
Thank you. Councillor Glenn, is your hand up a second time, or has it not been taken down?
I'm taking it down.
Thank you. Right, so thank you very much, members. If you're happy, then I would hand over to Dams to go through the recommendations, please. So that's Katie, I think.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Chairman. So turning to the recommendations, does anyone wish to abstain from voting on this item? No. Does anyone wish to vote against the recommendations? Okay, therefore, could I have a general hubbub of agree from members if you're in favour?
Agree.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Those recommendations are carried, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So we come to item 8, which is the exclusion of the public and the press. So I'm not sure. I'll read it out. Members are asked to resolve that the public be excluded from the meeting during the following item of business, as it's likely, in view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings, that if members of the public were present during this item, there would be disclosure to them of exempt information within paragraph 3, part 1, schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. And further, that in all the circumstances of the cases, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing information for the reasons set out in the exempt minutes. If called upon to do so, I probably won't read that out again in any future virtual meeting. Does any member have any concerns? If not...
Chairman, Councillor Corkery has his hand raised. I don't know whether anybody's noticed that.
No. Councillor Corkery?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was indicating in relation to this item. I think it's just worth noting at this stage that it's quite a significant amount of information that is being proposed to be withheld from publication. While I accept that clearly there will be parts of the documents in question that are confidential in nature and shouldn't be publicised, I do question the blanket approach that has been taken to withhold the majority of the papers we're considering today. I'm not sure that's in the good interest of governance and transparency and the ability of members of the public and scheme members, in fact, to understand the work of the board and how their money is being managed. What I would perhaps like to suggest, Chair, as a way forward today, and then we can maybe discuss kind of how this is handled in future, is that with the minutes, as much information as possible that can be published, perhaps in the form of a summary report that gives an indication of the information contained within the report, without obviously disclosing any of the information that is deemed to be sensitive or confidential. A kind of summary report that gives that indication is published to allow members of the public and pension members to understand at least the topics that are up for discussion
Thank you, Councillor Corkery. I think I'll hand over to the Deputy Chief Executive to provide an answer. And then I see that a number of you have your hands up, so I'll refer to Dams to go through the list in a moment. But Carolyn, could you pick that up for me, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I will start and then I'll warn my colleague Paul Hodgson, who's our legal advisor, that I'll then pass over to him. Councillor Corkery, I fully understand that as a new member to the panel and board, you would wish to ask a question in this regard. Rest assured, the items that are made exempt are done so with full legal advice around the exemption clauses. And as you'll be aware, if the exemption clauses do not apply, then we are not allowed to put items into confidential session. The aspects that are here today in the exempt items are an actuarial contract. I'm sure you would agree that we would not want to be disclosing details of that prior to entering into a contract, and the investment update. And again, these are commercially confidential. Paul, did you want to pick up anything else by way of explanation?
Thanks, Carolyn. Yes, I think all of the papers that are exempt today have been considered by the Council's monitoring officer, and the exemption has been approved as meeting the requirements under local government legislation. I think they are all genuinely exempt matters at present, so I think it is necessary for these to be dealt with in confidential session. And we do always look at these carefully and balance public interest in transparency against the need for genuinely sensitive information to be kept out of the public domain, particularly with investment matters, because there is the risk of always kind of distorting markets and other things like that. So these are very carefully checked before the exemption is agreed. I don't think there's too much more I can add there, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chairman, if I can just add that a vast amount of information is provided to the public in the annual accounts that are produced each year for the Pension Fund Panel and Board. They are presented on the County Council's website in draft form, and then they are audited and represented in audit form. There's a wealth of information there, and I would actively encourage the councillor to have a look at that online, and that's an area that if he has concerns about public access, perhaps that will reassure him around the information that is available to the public at an appropriate point in time. Thank you.
Councillor Corkery, are you happy with those answers, or would you like the county to pick it up with you later?
I take on board, Chair, the points that have been made. I'm not entirely happy with the response that's been provided, if I'm honest. I think perhaps the concrete suggestion that I'd put forward that I think is maybe worth us considering today is that with the minutes, a summary report for each of the items discussed. I guess in particular, of particular interest is item report 13 that refers to environmental, social and governance assessment. Clearly, that is something that there is a significant level of public interest in from the wider public, but also from scheme members. And I think that it should be possible for us to put out some kind of summary report that doesn't disclose anything confidential, but at least gives people an understanding of the kind of themes and topics which have been up for discussion.
Carolyn, there will be something on ESG at the AGM and the annual report, won't there?
Yes, we cover ESG within the annual report as well. So again, Councillor, I would actively encourage you to review the documentation that we do make available in the public domain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we should move on. Katie, is there any questions in the queue?
There are. Oh, Councillor Dowden's just raised his hand, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Dowden.
Chairman, as far as the councillor that had that concern, it may be advisable, with the chairman's permission, that obviously we have a separate panel that actually, shall we say, questions further our fund managers in regard of ESG. which I attended one, although I'm not a member, and that is, I think he would get a lot of reassurance if he was allowed to go to one of those.
Thank you, Councillor Dowden. I don't sit on that subcommittee. I'm not sure how much of that is exempt material and whether the public are invited. Is there an officer that can guide me on that, please?
Chairman, the subcommittee meets, I think it's 4 times a year, and the minutes of the subcommittee come to this panel and board. From memory, and Andrew Boutflower might be able to add further detail from memory, that comes into the public session unless they've been discussing something in private, but I don't think that's happened to date. Members of the public can request to come and make a deputation, and the subgroup was specifically created and designed to allow better opportunity for engagement on ESG, because there sometimes wasn't enough time perhaps to properly promote that in the full panel and board. The chairman of the Pension Fund Panel and Board also chairs that subcommittee. I would imagine, and I'm happy for us to take it offline, that he'd be very happy to invite Councillor to attend that meeting as an observer, as part of settling into the panel and board and getting up to speed with what happens in various parts of activity. So I think you'd be made most welcome, but colleagues will take that up offline and contact you back again if you'd like to avail yourself of that opportunity. Andrew, is there anything else I've missed from the ESG subgroup?
No, Carolyn, other than agree that it's far less likely that the items that go to that committee would be in areas that would be exempt, but obviously we'd look on a case-by-case basis, but more likely information in the public domain there.
Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Dowden. So, are there any more hands up there, Katie?
No, we have no other hands raised, Chairman.
Okay, then thank you very much. Just trying to get back to that. So I think that now means that we've completed the exemption item. Thank you very much, members. And could you end the webcast, please?